Mike Mentzer was one of the most important bodybuilders of the golden era. However, lately many people overestimate it too much. And why do I say this? Well, sit down, grab your protein shake and accompany me to discover it. Born in November 15th of 1951 in Pennsylvania, Mike was an American bodybuilder, especially known for its exhausting but effective heavy-duty training method and its high-carbohydrate diet. Thanks to this, he achieved multiple titles in the sport, but he would finish in 5th place in the Mr. Olympia, being remembered as an uncrowned king. Which is what they call bodybuilders who for one reason or another did not win a Mr. Olympian despite deserving it, a situation that unfortunately has been repeated on multiple occasions. However, Mentzer was one of the first, if not the first of them, in addition to the most noisy, being surpassed only by Nasser El-Sonbadi, who also tends to be vastly overrated. However, in the case of Mentzer, he lost because of his attitude, and something that his fangirls usually omit is that apparently Mentzer was a very unpleasant moron, or at least that is what some of his acquaintances believed, like Frank Zane, who believed that Mike gave a bad image to bodybuilding. Which sounds congruent considering he said this.
I thought these were supposed to be the guys that ran the show. Here you had this big Prussian son of a bitch standing up acting like a Nazi.
In my humble opinion, this, among many other things, such as his apparent addition to Walter White's secret pre-workout, earned him a 5th place in the 1980 Mr. Olympia, not so much his rivalry with a certain Austrian man. And while we're at it, we have to talk the elephant in the room. That's right, I'm referring to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And another of the things that Mike Mentzer fans tend to chatter about is how superior Mike was to Arnold.
You serious?
First, the difference was not that much. What is more, depending on how you look at it, Arnold could be close to or even surpass Mike, and we are talking about Arnold in 1980, which is surely his worst year if we compare the prime of both. Well, I wouldn't know what else to say. Arnold had a higher level than Mike, even if it were only because of genetics. He was a better athlete, and nothing you say or do will change that. On the other hand, it is worth mentioning that Mike Mentzer's innovative methods were not so much his but rather his coach Arthur Jones, who had previously trained Mike's brother, Ray Mentzer, and even Sergio Oliva, who, unlike Mike, did win the Mr. Olympia, besides having a physique 1,000 times better than Mike's, but no one remembers him because he was black. The reality is that Mike was a lab rat and little more. Hence many of his ideas were as radical as training 3 times a month. It is clear if he really trained like that, since according to many of those who knew him, they affirm that he did not do it. But well, it wouldn't be a surprise to see someone from the golden era lie about their preparation. On the other hand, Arthur Jones is also a very mythologized figure. If anyone wants to learn more about his methods, you can search for them, but I warn you, most of his research is very archaic today, just like most Nautilus Incorporated training machines. Going back to Mike, we could mention things like how he felt extremely offended by the judges' preference for Arnold in 1980 and for Colombo in 1981, but on the other hand he cared little or nothing when in 1997 Nasser El-Sonbadi had the same problem with Dorian Yates, of course because the beneficiary in this case was his colleague. That's where you realize that Mike was simply whining because he didn't win that year. And since we are here, it is worth mentioning that Dorian's main drawback in that Mr. Olympia was his abdominal distension or bubble guts, the same problem that Arnold pointed out in Mike, which would make him one of the first competitors with this characteristic. The heavy-duty method wouldn't have anything to do with it. I wouldn't be surprised. After all, this method became fashionable at the same time that bubble guts began to appear, and it is even common for bodybuilders with this method or similar to have it. Those with a more controlled intensity do not usually have the same problem. There is no research on this, so I cannot guarantee anything. However, what I can assure is that this method is related to hernia, tears, and a higher rate of injuries in general. I know that it is fun to train this way. But let's be honest, it can be done better. There is no need to exceed. There is always a smarter way to do things, and well, I don't have much more to add. If you don't agree, feel free to comment. However, if you do, subscribe and like. That's all for my part and see you later.